VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. The Cull, hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guests Michelle Riml and Michael St. John Smith.
So welcome to the VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the community outreach coordinator for VocalEye, your host for these almost live events, and I love it, and a member of the blind community, and so proud to be in a space with all of you. I want to just take a quick moment to thank everybody who's made donations and for folks who have supported what we do here at VocalEye. There is a donation link in the chat if you feel you have the capacity to do so. It's not an obligation, but also if you want to support us in other ways, as I say every week, you can write a letter or a testimonial paragraph. That really helps us when donors are like, what's the impact that you're making on the community? And if you happen to be watching this event on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. And so you can check up on all of our future programming offers at www.vocaleye.ca. All right, friends, before we move on with tonight's presentation, I want to welcome Deanna into the space, who's going to offer our land acknowledgement. So Deanna, the space is yours. I know we've got Deanna somewhere.
Oh, it was just taking me a second to unmute. We've got different people managing all the functions. Hello, everybody. I am Deanna Jestrin, and as Amy said, I'm an intern at VocalEye this year. My family comes from the Statliam Nation, which is near Lillooet, BC, on my mother's side, and English-Welsh descent on my father's side. VocalEye is presenting to you today from the ancestral, traditional, shared territories of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish First Nations. It's important to acknowledge these nations and the lands that they've occupied for thousands of years. I would like to share with you today some general recommendations for what you can do to become an Indigenous ally or advocate. We've talked a lot this year during my internship about important subjects, important topics, important history, important connection points. And I think that this is sort of like a next step. Well, what do we do? If we want to really represent ourselves in that way, be more connected and be more aligned with the goals and visions of truth and reconciliation, then what can we do to do that? So I would say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all learn by making mistakes. And we all get uncomfortable doing things we haven't done before. So I think that's inherently part of the process. There's not just one right way to give a land acknowledgement or to demonstrate Indigenous and BIPOC allyship, right? There are many ways, and I think intentionality is key. Humility and gentle curiosity are also key considerations. You know, just coming from that place of wanting to learn, wanting to understand, wanting to ask questions, wanting to know the history and the reasons for some of the things that have happened in the past. If you are unsure if an approach is an appropriate approach, I would say do some research and or ask someone questions, somebody who has more experience, maybe somebody who gives land acknowledgements or who is doing advocacy work. Have those conversations. You could email, you could talk to friends, you could certainly, ask questions in this space if it comes up. If an Indigenous person offers information to you, that's great. Right? That is kind of like a firsthand way to be connected. But I don't think it's always fair or appropriate to place that burden on Indigenous people, that knowledge sharing responsibility, especially somebody who you don't know well. So just maybe just consider that, like if that conversation were to come up, especially if it seems like there's a really open kind of attitude in the conversation, then it might be an appropriate time to say, I have a question and I wonder if you would be comfortable answering that question. You could ask, right? Take time to reflect on your own attitudes around the isms. And this reflection piece I think is really key as well. It's important to think about classism, sexism, colonialism, ableism, racism, ageism. These things really impact our own actions and views. So if you reflect on those things and you think, what do I think about colonialism? You know, how has that impacted my life? Well, my ancestors came from, you know, this country. So at some point they had to, you know, leave behind a lot of traditions. You know, I wonder what it looked like. I wonder what it felt like at that time. You know, I wonder where they got help from. Were there people who didn't get that same help? Like, just asking these questions, I think, really get the mind sort of open for new thoughts and new experiences. And I think that advocacy is really an experience. It's something that you think about differently, and then you start to act differently, and then you experience life differently as a result. It can be intimidating and uncomfortable to think about how we position ourselves in relation to issues like this, social justice kind of issues. And I certainly have not been a really loud voice in my past because I feel uncomfortable. As much as I, you know, subtly share, I think that that's an important first step, right? And here I am in this space, and I'm taking more of an active role. But I've gone through these processes that I'm talking about here today. We all have similarities and differences, and the more we value each other for our similarities and differences, the more tolerant and supportive we will become of each other. I think that's also key. By developing a united front, I think we'll begin to heal these wounds of the past and also create a more peaceful future for our country moving forward. So with that, as always, I want to thank you so much for being here and for giving me this space to share with you. To each of you, I lift my hands upward, bent 90 degrees at the elbow, with flat palms facing toward me at eye level. And I say to you all my relations, which indicates that we are all related. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you, Deanna. I got a lot of takeaways from that. So I know how to be, how to carve out my future land acknowledgements in a more intentional way. So thank you always for sharing.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, well, welcome friends. It's Wednesday, March the 9th, 2022. And tonight we're offering you the audio play from the Arts Club Theatre Company called The Cull. And this will be our number 75 live event. If this was a birthday, I don't know, is it there's some kind of special, I don't know whether it's gold, silver, or platinum, or paper, or whatever, but I'm sure there's some kind of special gift that we're supposed to share for 75. And we have the pleasure of having the playwrights joining us in this space. So I want to say hello and welcome to Michael St. John Smith and Michelle Riml to the space. So welcome, Michelle and Michael. Nice to have you both with us here tonight. Oh, you may have trouble muting. Let's see if we can get our VocalEye team to allow you to unmute. There we go. I think we got you now. Awesome. Thanks, friends. Really a pleasure to have you in the space with us tonight. So thank you so much for taking the time. I would love to know a little bit about The Cull and where the idea came from to write this, because you're playwrights. So somehow this idea popped in your mind.
Yeah, well, I'll hand it over to Mike. He can let you know all about it.
Well, I guess the idea first came, we were having some dinner with some friends, and one of them had been working on the wolf call. Was a guy working for the government and was involved with the wolf call. And we talked about it at dinner and thought, you know, afterwards we were driving home and thought what an interesting idea it was for a play. And how there were a lot of similarities between what was involved in the call and how human beings interacted in a kind of even in a dinner situation. And so that really was the beginning of an idea that we talked about and eventually expanded. And of course it became the play, The Cull.
Yeah, so it was actually the similarities between human beings and wolves, not so much the call of wolves, but actually we wanted to look at the dynamics of 6 people at a dinner party, and you'll find out more about them when we hear the play tonight, and how they interact and kind of keeping in the background the idea of how animals or wolves interact, the idea of being part of a pack and working together, and whether or not human beings share the same kinds of values. They sort of get into that in the play. And the other thing that was unique about this experience for us is that Mike and I are married, and we hadn't written a play together before. So it's amazing that we're still married, but we survived the experience. And it was very rewarding because it allowed us to kind of take the stance of different characters in the play and kind of improvise the conversations that they might be having. And another thing about the play is that thematically it's about marriage and friendship and people that have been together for a long time, and how people navigate those relationships and how they change, you know. So it was really rich territory and fun to write a play that takes place in one place over the period of one night. It's very theatrical that way, and also is situated in kind of like the Kamloops area of British Columbia, because we both live here in Vancouver.
So, I mean, we're going to have lots of things to talk about when we come back for the Q&A. I already know this,
okay.
just based on what you've shared. But then, of course, once we get a chance to listen, I hope folks will have lots of questions about different things. But was this play originally meant to be on the stage?
Yes.
And then, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it was. We wrote it as a stage play with that in mind.
It was scheduled to appear at the Arts Club in September of 2020. So it got pushed because of that little pandemic that broke out. And actually we just heard today that it looks like it will be scheduled for next season coming up.
Very cool. Awesome. So there may be,
sorry.
I said there may be an opportunity for those of us who are local to the Vancouver area to be able to go see it live at some point.
Oh,
yes, yeah. Absolutely. And it was a unique experience actually to do it as a podcast, because it allowed us the opportunity to really listen to the play, and without all the kind of, you know, the direction and the moving around and set and all of that, but just to really hear the play. So yeah.
I think that's great. And just, if I'm putting my accessibility hat on, for those of us who don't see the movements on the stage, it's a really accessible way. And maybe there's some things that you can take into the stage play that make it just a little bit more accessible for folks who are following based on dialogue only.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. It's something we can listen for even this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to get into this. It's about an hour and 40 minutes long, and it's divided into episodes. And I'm wondering if y'all want to throw out any kind of things that we should be aware of, maybe any content warnings or things that we might experience that could be triggering.
There's some, I mean, I suppose towards the end of the play, there's some violence in the play, and some, basically some arguing, but I don't think there's any graphic content. There's I think
some coarse language, that kind of thing.
A little bit of coarse language, and definitely a little violence.
I was listening to this wearing another hat, and I was surprised, and folks may recognize a voice of Jasmine Chen, who's a friend of mine and who's been in this space with us before when we experienced K-Body and Mind together. And so I was like, oh, Jasmine's in this. So it's really nice to, when you start to hear when you start to hear voices of folks that you know quite well, which is really lovely. With that, friends, I mean, the time flies by really, really fast. So I'm going to invite folks to just sit back and relax and have a listen to the Cull. So Rick, when you're ready, let's go ahead and play the Cull.
Due to copyright restrictions, this featured presentation has not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
All right, everybody, we're back after listening to the Cull. That was quite a roller coaster ride. We've got Michelle with us, we've got Michael with us, and friends, this is our Q&A portion. So if you have questions or comments, things that might have resonated with you, maybe you, identified with some of these friendships. I know that some of them felt resonant to me, but I'm going to just jump right on in there. We got a hand for Megan, but I'm going to just jump right in and ask my first question, which is, how the heck did you write such diverse characters in terms of these relationships? Are these like people in your lives that you're modeling these relationships off of, or are we watching a lot of like television reality? I don't know. Where do you come up with these I don't know, dynamic types of couples?
Hey, we just had to get unmuted there.
There you go.
Where do we come up with dynamic? Well, you just have to live long enough and be around people. I think that's actually something like a goal we set for ourselves, is to make sure that each of the people have their own unique personalities and voices.
Yeah, and it sort of emerged as we were actually talking about the play itself and kind of working out
what they cared about.
And where they were, on the economic spectrum, which is a really important part of it, and just that so to create a kind of polar dynamic almost, between all the different characters, so that we could get that conflict and tension that's so important to move the play forward.
Yeah. And I think also, like, just as writers, when we're developing characters, we spend a lot of time talking about their backstory and where they're from and what they think about things and what their values are, so that we had, fully fleshed them out as people before we, write these scenes between them.
I can imagine that takes a ton of work. And one of the things that I was listening to, and I'm not sure that I remember hearing what Jacob's diagnosis is or what it is, but we don't need to know. No. Right? Because the characters know, and all we need to know as a listener is, Lynn wasn't around to know what was happening with Jacob.
And every person who's neurodivergent has a different, diagnosis as individuals. So we didn't want to like pinhole Jacob into we didn't just want him to be like a diagnosis. We wanted to be the son of these two people who love him very much, and he's doing quite well, like in Vancouver and stuff, and other people have their thoughts about that.
For sure. Okay, let's go to Megan, and then we'll go to Sharon. Go ahead, Megan. We'll give Megan a moment to unmute.
I loved it. Oh my goodness.
Thanks.
I absolutely loved that. Especially, when, sometimes the husband and wife, they call and they actually call and all that stuff. They call and they call and they call and they call. They fight together, That got me into writing a play, but it's gonna be a bit more, story first. Then I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it into a play. But that'd be so cool.
Sounds like you've inspired a playwright in the room.
Yeah, but it can be some fantasy stuff in there. Like sometimes, like say, maybe like they, at a time when they're having a time, and the daughter's in a wheelchair, and she has special powers, like special powers, and all of a sudden there's a fight going on, just like the other, it's like what we just heard right now, right? But it got worse that he went out and joined the dark, actually going the dark side, the dark wizards. And that came.
Well, Megan, you'll have to keep us posted on that one.
I'm gonna be writing it right away, honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thought. We're gonna go to Sharon's hand and then Nico's hand.
Thank you so much. And where was this? Where was this actually played in?
At the Arts Club. It's through the Arts Club.
In Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
But the play is set in the Okanagan, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much. That was awesome. I loved it.
Thanks, Megan. Okay, Sharon, you're up, my friend.
Hi. So I have to admit, I got a little confused about the third couple.
Okay.
The third couple is not married. Is that correct?
No, they're all married.
The third couple is married to each other, huh?
Yeah, you mean John and Lynn that come in late?
Yes, because it's the houses of Paul and Nicole.
Yes,
and married. Yeah. Okay. All right, so they're all three are married. Yeah, I was a little unclear about John and Nicole, but who previously, Paul and Lynn had an affair before? Is that where that's?
So I can understand your confusion. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's okay.
So Paul and Nicole and Lewis and Lynn all went to school together, and Lynn and Paul had a relationship when they were younger. And then later on, Lynn moved to New York and she met John, and he's a little older than her, and they got married. So they were kind of outside of the group again. And then they've all come back. Then they all come back to meet for dinner and stuff. So you've got this sort of set of 4 friends from high school, and then these 2 people that have married into the group, which is Nicole and John have married in.
And Nicole is not married to
she's married
Paul.
to
Paul. Married to Paul, and Emily's married to Lewis.
Yeah. Lewis, right. That I got, the Emily and Lewis. That was very clear. Yeah, and then I knew the people that were hosting were married, but I was a little unclear. But one of them, and now I'm drawing a blank as to which one said it, one of them had gotten together, had been married previously, right? That came out.
That was Paul.
That was Paul, yes, you're right. Nicole and Paul had gotten together while Paul was still married. That was kind of a little thing that was planned.
Yeah, I know that kind of got dropped by the way, but I was like, oh, okay, wait, who was that? Okay.
That was good listening, yeah.
No, that what I got, but thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
And does that mean that, you know, I suppose if a person's looking at foreshadowing or whatever, that maybe if Paul has a history of stepping out on a relationship, and it's not a surprise that maybe he did it again?
As one of the characters says, the man has an appetite.
Yeah.
Right? He overindulges in pretty much everything.
Right. Okay. Let's go to Tilo. Your hand, please.
Hello. I just have a comment about how this play was done. It was interesting that you could tell that the characters had a different personality and values, and that helped the story to be interesting. But in between the little plays they did, you put music in between to break through. I thought that was quite interesting. The episodes, yeah. It kind of reminded me a little bit, listening to old radio shows from the 1940s and 50s and stuff like that they did something similar like that. And it was always moving, because I know when you watch television now, there's a lot of space, and a lot of times people, they're not very clear. They whisper sometimes.
Yeah,
it's totally different the way the way they approach the acting in that. But for a play for hearing, this is perfect. This is great.
Oh, that's great. We were really enjoying. You know, it's really helpful for us to listen to it without actually being able to see it, because it makes us listen to the story in a way to listen to it for its clarity. And also, we were sort of looking at each other, because we haven't listened to it for a long time, just kind of going, yeah, you know what, this is moving along. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of dead air, because I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no dead air.
Yeah. So
and it gets you thinking about what's going on or what's going to go on.
I have a question, Theo. Did you have any trouble hearing any of it, or was it pretty clear to you?
No, mine was pretty clear.
Good.
I actually had a little speaker that I put it on. I took the speaker off, but yeah, it was great. You know, on Bluetooth, so I can walk around and leave my iPod or my phone hooked up, and yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tilo.
I think it was well done.
Okay, we've got a hand from Lori and then a hand from Louise. So go ahead, Lori, and unmute.
I want to say it was a very good play. I did miss a little bit of it because I have a dog that likes to go out at 8 o'clock at night for relief. So I missed like 10, 15 minutes of it. I can't take it with me when I'm outside. But it kind of reminded me about the 4 friends that sort of went to school together. There were friends of mine, and there was 4 of us that kind of went to school together many years ago, and how we kind of, unfortunately 2 friends of that group are now deceased now, and there's only 2 of us left in that group. And so it kind of reminded me of that, how people still could be friends, but also had underlying issues.
Oh, that's good. One of the things that, we learn as writers, I guess, there might be some other writers on the call tonight, is, you really try to get specific about relationships and specific about what you're writing about. And the more specific you are, the more universal it becomes. So that's sort of, that's great feedback. And it's kind of what we go for, so that people in the audience are watching these relationships and also casting back in their own mind about what's true about it for them. Because I think that's what theater is meant to do, in a way, is make you think about your own life.
But boy, that was brave of her, throwing that cake in his face.
I know. And that was fun, that line.
That must have been a fun scene to write.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Lori. And Louise, a hand from Louise.
Hi. Wow, that was loaded, because it really shows personality of characters from up. And I'm going to say it this way. I love the couple that was celebrating an anniversary, 25 years, and why they married, what they accomplished, even her emotion when she broke down crying about the fact that she didn't feel like she had control of money, her life, the bills, getting credit. That is so reality. That I face it all the time. So but what I'm saying is I'm celebrating my 30th anniversary in July. I've raised 3 kids, so I get some of those struggles, those moments when you don't know where you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then to see the self-centered side of others in their friendships. That can happen within family or friends. And I think it doesn't matter which way you put it, but it showed real people's feelings, real people's attributes. You did a fantastic job.
Louise, a question.
Compliment.
Louise, that's a compliment. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
How did you feel about them, Emily and Lewis, leaving at
that was my question.
Yeah. How did you feel?
I felt proud of them.
Yay, that's the deal. Yay.
I feel like, and you know what? They weren't selling themselves out. Even though I know that feeling, like you walk away from what could be good and maybe an easier life. Oh yeah, that must have been temptation to stay there. But you know what? They walked away because they had pride. They had love. They had each other.
And everything they needed.
And they knew they didn't want to hurt their family. And that takes a lot of guts. I'll tell you something, because how can I word it? As a mother, I do anything for my kids, anytime, any day. But I will not sacrifice what's important to teach them good values. And they would, if they'd stayed, they would have been hurting, and it would have destroyed their relationship.
That's really great. That's great that you took all that out of it. That was definitely our aim.
I've listened to books since I've been 15 years old. I've read print until I was 13 very clearly. By the time I could listen to a book I listen to stories, I look for the underline in every story I read.
Of course.
I'm curious about, like Emily and Lewis leave. Do they ever come back? Because it's a question mark.
I'm curious about that too. And well, I don't know if people got this, and this would be a thing, in the staging of it, the other group of people, they try to kind of pull it together. They do that kind of thing of like, well, that was weird, but let's just all move on, except for Paul. And we wrote it in there so people that were just listening could get the sense of it. But Paul stays sort of across the room looking out the window, because we felt that Paul really lost something here, because he lost this friendship with Lewis. So I don't know if they come, we don't know if they come back or if it's ever the same again.
If anybody was going to come back, it would be Paul and Lewis as friends, but that would be pretty, I think the rest of the people kind of, they've nothing in common anymore.
It's kind of hard.
It really says something about how relationships change over time and how people change over time, and we're not the people we were when we were young. And that really resonated with me, because I had lots of friends in high school that I'm not friends with now. And not, not because I dislike them, but just because we're very different people and we have different values and different things happening. And that's, but like Louise said, that's reality. But it is, I love endings like this, because it makes me ask that question, which is, what happens to this group? Do they just end up, meeting with each other in pairs as it, will they ever get back together as a group of 6 and have a dinner together?
It'll be very
maybe
awkward.
Not, maybe awkward. Yeah, maybe that's this could be a webisode or some kind of like Netflix series or something.
Maybe turn into a series and then just awkward dinner parties.
Michael, for you, you were a part of the playwriting team, but you were also a voice actor in this.
Well, that was kind of a last minute thing. We had another actor who was going to play the part, and then he had to drop out for some reason. And I am an actor, a film actor, so I, they asked me to do it. So
he did it last minute, and he did a great job.
Literally last minute.
He stepped in that day.
What was that process like for folks in this space who maybe aren't familiar with how the recording and that kind of stuff comes together? Were you all in the same room together recording?
Yeah, we basically all had separate microphones, and then there was a guy in a recording booth who had a mixing board, and so he could control the different voices, and then we would record segments of the play. Say if there were 4 of us in the room or 5 of us or 6 of us in the room, then we would just just read it like a regular play. And, that was it. And maybe do a couple of takes.
And the director was there, the same director that will direct it for the Arts Club.
She was there and directing the entire process. And in fact, if there were separate lines that needed to be redone, then we would record those, and then the engineer would be able to keep them separate and then mix them into the final product.
And then what about, there's some great music in this, of course, but there's also all of these sound effects that are happening, the chopping of the vegetables in the kitchen and those kinds of things, which is a really wonderfully rich way of listening to a play. How does that process work for folks who may not understand? Nobody's actually in the kitchen making chopping noises, or are they?
No,
we rewrote this play for this particular podcast, in that we went through it and made sure that we were saying the characters' names so people knew who they were. We wrote some different lines to be clear. Like Paul didn't say usually like, "What did you just throw that cake in my face?" But we needed that for this particular iteration of the play. And then Mike went in and put in like chopping sounds. We need to hear that. And then the sound technician.
Yeah, they were separately recorded. They were not recorded at the same time as the voices. It was
and maybe came from a sound bank somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Or even Walla, where people will make the sounds or.
Back to my Foley days. I used to work in Foley. It's really interesting how there's all these sort of moving parts that come together to make the whole. And when I had shared with you all earlier about this idea of, again, saying the characters' names or saying things like, "Did you have to throw that cake in my face?" Even from a stage perspective, it makes it so much more inclusive for those of us who aren't visually able to see all the details.
Well, that's a very good point. Right? And one of the things we're going to do when we're finished this is we're going to take a look at the script that we wrote for the podcast and compare it to the script that we have for the Arts Club. And there's changes that we've made for the podcast that we will continue to have in the script for the Arts Club. So now that you've said that and brought that to our attention, we will bear that in mind.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of, again, when we make things like podcasts and radio plays, they're not being seen by anybody. So it's a real inclusive way for folks who are able to hear them on how to do that. So that's really wonderful that you're doing that. What's next for the two of you? Are you writing something new or?
Well, we're both working on different projects. I actually just took a novel writing course. I'm working on a book.
Ooh.
So hopefully that could be a recorded thing at some point. And we're looking forward to seeing this show staged. I mean, it was tough during the pandemic. All the theater was closed and everything was kind of put on hold, but we're really looking forward to seeing this come up next year.
Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what stage it might be on in terms of?
I believe it will be, if it's a for sure thing, it will be at the Granville Island stage.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Probably just after Christmas.
Yeah. Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know, before I officially say goodnight to the two of you and thank you for joining us, we have a prize draw to get to. So I don't know, do we have a volunteer? Michael, Michelle, anybody want to?
Oh, I thought of a word.
I thought of a word too.
Okay.
Oh no.
It's just any word, right?
It's any word, yeah, but
I thought of the word kangaroo.
I was going to say wolf, which felt way more like in
at least that feels cullish for the wolf. All right, well, I will bring Sarah out into the space, and who's going to volunteer to yell out the word?
I guess Mike wants kangaroo. I think
I don't
we should definitely let him
choose.
No, I think you should yell out kangaroo when you're
what do I do? I don't understand even this.
That's okay. We're going to bring Sarah out. Sarah has a list of the names of folks that are still on the call with us. And whenever you feel like yelling out the word, Mike, she will just pull the name. So
okay.
That's as simple as it needs to be. And we're just waiting for Sarah to pop into space. There, Sarah. All right, hello. Sarah, Mike, you two are in each other's hands.
Cool. So anytime you're ready.
I just yell out.
Yep, you
yell out.
You ready?
Okay.
Kangaroo.
Our winner is, just let me quickly check.
Sarah's doing it digitally.
Yeah. Okay, so our winner is Christy Braley.
Christy Braley. She's still on the phone. Yeah, there she is. She's in the panelist. That's awesome. So Christy, you have won a raffle prize. Congratulations. And as we do every week, we'll connect with you offline to make sure you get a prize that is appropriate for your geographical area. Is that Christy? Did I hear Christy, or was I like hearing things? Maybe I was hearing.
I think that was me.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. I mean, Michael, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to have you share your work with us and a little bit of some behind the scenes stuff with us, and be available to listen and take the questions and comments from our panelists or our community tonight. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It was
very
really
much.
our pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks
really
for hosting such a nice evening.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing
guys.
the Cull on stage.
And we will look forward to welcoming you all at the art.
Well, good luck with it on stage.
Thank you,
Yes.
Louise. All right. I guess that's our signing off then.
Good night, everybody.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.